Welcome to Mi Camino, a series where we talk with UC San Diego alumni about their paths through education and beyond. Today, our guest, Cris Liang, is going to share his journey to becoming a restaurateur. From growing up between two countries and working in geotechnical engineering to opening a second location of Common Theory Public House here in Chula Vista, where we happen to be sitting right now. So thank you so much for joining us today, Cris. I really appreciate it. And the reason is because your story is a very common story about the diaspora, the Asian diaspora throughout Latin America.
Uh-huh.
So maybe you can start with just sharing a little bit about your childhood and how your family ended up in Chula Vista.
Yeah, of course. And first of all, too, welcome to Common Theory Chula Vista. It is our pleasure to have you guys here. And thanks for doing an interview with us. We're excited to share our story and the background. Based on your first question there, when you mentioned the diaspora, it reminds me, or at least take a little bit back in history of how my parents made it out to the U.S., right? So they were originally from this town or this city called Yanping, which is in the Guangdong province of China. And it's more like in the southwestern portion of it, but that region in itself was very known for a large scale of diaspora that exited China at the time. I forget the dates, but a majority of the folks from there came over to the U.S., but then also to Venezuela.
Yeah.
So our family was part of the group that kind of wanted to come out to the U.S., to America, to the States. And at the time, the easiest route for them was actually migrating over to Mexico. And so that's where our story begins, right? That's where I was actually born. They ended up in Mexico, in Baja California. Mm-hmm. And so I was born in Rosarito.
Okay.
And shortly after I was born, my family moved all of us over to Tijuana, right across the border here in a little town called Colonia Libertad. So that's where they started their business. They opened up a Chinese restaurant. And they were part of that movement, essentially the ultimate goal, right? Make it to the States, the American dream, pursue that. But that portion of the story is always awesome to be told because they went through those steps and they arrived at a country, Mexico, not knowing any Spanish. And they slowly built their own business. I grew up in the restaurant world with them and helped with all odds and ends. At about the age of fourth grade, wrapped that up in school down there, and they wanted to send me and my brothers over to the States to start learning English. Obviously, by that point, we had our green card and such, but because of their businesses, they stayed down there, but sent me and my brothers up to LA where we had some uncles, and we were residing with them and attending school. Took our parents a couple of years of business to save up enough money and then bought a house in Chula Vista. So right here off of Rancho Del Rey, and my mom still lives there till this day. And so, they bought a house and moved all of us back to Chula Vista, San Diego here. And that's where I started high school.
So because your family is in Chula Vista, how did mom feel when you let her know that you were going to be opening up a second location here in Chula Vista? Was there a sense of pride and excitement, or?
Yeah, definitely. When there's always growth in general, she was always getting excited, but kind of bringing something back home, probably top of mind was, my son's going to come over for dinner a little bit more often, which I do. I'd swing by there, or on the way back out to home, I'll swing by and pick up some food or whatever. So she was definitely excited that I'd be, a little bit closer to home. Yeah. So.
And how did you find yourself at UC San Diego?
Yeah, I think back then, if I could recall correctly, UC San Diego was always top of mind, kind of top of brand, top of schools when it came, application process and things like that with all of our friends, like, where's everybody going? So everybody was excited to go to UCSD. And me, myself, I just, spending all of high school down here in Bonita, I didn't really felt the need to I need to get away from home or I'm moving out of San Diego. I loved San Diego. San Diego's weather, the people, the vibe, everything was so nice. I didn't really had any aspirations to move away for college. Mm-hmm. But besides that, besides the city, besides the love for it, San Diego as a school was always kind of top class for me. I did what I could to try to get in there, and I did, yeah.
And so you were at UC San Diego. What was your college and what were you studying?
Yeah, I got accepted into Thurgood Marshall, was my college, and spent my freshman dorm years at Thurgood Marshall dorms, which was amazing. And I studied structural engineering at UCSD with a focus sequence in civil and geotechnical studies, yeah.
So you are currently an entrepreneur, you're a restaurateur, and maybe you could share a little bit with our listeners, like how does one go from being a engineer, geotechnical engineer, to becoming a restaurateur? How did that happen for you?
Yeah, personally, right, this is just my story. I was doing my engineering career and nothing against it, but, I had one kid at the time. I was in the engineering field for a good, 7 to 8 years. And just personally speaking, obviously, this is my story, my background, but I felt like, there was a portion of me that wanted to be my own boss. But at the same time, there was also a portion of me wanting to provide more for my family, right? I mentioned I had my first son at the time. He was about a year and a half old. And I just wanted to provide more. Not that the firm that I was with wasn't providing, but I wanted to scale up a little bit faster or do more. And so that was my first realization in trying to do something on my own, but obviously with a partner, business partner. And so if I recall, that's kind of how the process started. And then from there, you take the relationships that you have built and things like that, and you start seeking for a concept, studying the area, doing your business study and your proposals to make sure that everything is jiving before jumping into it. But that was the beginning of the process, yeah.
And if I recall, your business partner was also a UC San Diego student?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, he's actually from Chula Vista as well.
Okay.
So he went to East Lake High School. I went to Bonita Vista High School.
Awesome.
So we're rivals.
Two Chula Vista boys making it work.
Yeah. We're trying to.
So what was that like? I recall that. Did you just jump right into entrepreneurship? Did you have one foot in engineering and one foot in entrepreneurship? How did that transition?
Yeah. And obviously it goes without saying too, leaving the security of a great engineering job, the healthcare it provided, the 401ks and stuff like that. It was the hardest decision that I've ever made in my life to actually make that leap. So it was really hard to kind of leave that security to be on something on my own, that if it worked, it worked, and if it didn't, I'd have to kind of crawl back somehow. But yeah, the initial build out of the first restaurant that we did, and even into the 6 months of business, I was still working both jobs technically. But I felt that at the end of by the 5th or 6th month, I was either falling asleep on my desk, don't tell my old bosses, or also being tired at the restaurant when I was talking to the guests. So I wasn't giving 100% on one job or the other. So that was a crucial time as well, where I said, hey, I love this engineering firm. I love the folks that are in it. Do my best to kind of part ways. And they understood that I was investing into a restaurant and I was going to give it 120%, because otherwise, if it failed, then it would have been money wasted, effort wasted. So they fully understood that I needed to just dive in, both feet in and make it the best possible. And so, yeah, it was about 6 months time that I was trying to do both, and ended up realizing I got to focus. Yeah.
Yeah. So your story is, very similar to a lot of, immigrant stories where parents sacrifice a lot so that their children can achieve in the country they decide to settle in. And so I imagine that mom and dad were very keen on you going to UC San Diego, and maybe super keen that you were an engineer.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. I think it's not just with maybe like Asian parents. I'm sure it's all parents, but my parents were typical in that sense of, hey, look at the way we're working. We spend 7 days a week at the restaurant. We open it, we close it. It's hard work. It's a lot of grunt work. So we need you guys to excel in school. They believed in higher education. They wanted us to make sure that we accomplished the education side of things, the things that they didn't, get a chance to do. I think their highest level of education was like they didn't even complete high school. And so they really pushed that in us, and they wanted us to make sure that we went and experienced that, get a college degree, get an engineering career or any career.
Right.
Have a little bit of safety net, when it comes to that, the future of your life. And so they definitely pushed that. That was their philosophy. And I think I think I am already transferring that to my kids as well. Having experienced college and higher education, I think it was just an amazing time. It was a great time for me at UCSD where I met a lot of the friends that I still hang out with now. They have kids. Their kids hang out with my kids. We go camping. And it's not friends that I kept in touch since middle school or high school. It was actually from UCSD, during my college years that I built a stronger bond with them through all the activities that we did in or outside of campus, So for those reasons, I preach that to my kids as well.
Yeah. The lifelong friendships that come out of higher education.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people, especially if you're first gen to university, you don't think that that's something that could happen. So
Right.
I love that you're sharing that. And then the other question I have is like, okay, so mom and dad worked really hard. They were like, look at us. We work 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. And then you go to mom and dad and you say, Mom and Dad, I think I'm going to quit my engineering job and open up a restaurant. What was that like?
Yeah, take a look at my business plan and see what you think. It was ironic, right? To say the least. It's like it's almost like I did a full circle, and then ended up at the start line again. But it was only my mom at the time. My dad had passed back in 2010. We opened the first restaurant in 2014 or so. So yeah, I told my mom about it and came up with this idea. And she was taken away a little bit at first. She was like, wait, you have one kid right now and your engineering, career, corporate life seems good. Like, you're investing in a house, like you guys are settled. What's going on? So there were definitely the initial doubts. But at the same time, parents are always supportive. So she was excited, but just couldn't really visualize what we were going to come up with or how it was going to end up being. And then fast forward to like post-construction, and we're opening up for the first day, and I bring my mom up, for like grand opening. And obviously super traditional Chinese. She orders a full-on like pig, like roasted pig, like a lechon.
Right.
And she comes up with like, this whole set of like doing some like incense and a little prayer kind of thing. And it was great, and it was fun. She saw the entire space and just was so proud, was excited. Couldn't really put into words, but you kind of knew that, okay, I think they're doing it different than us. They're not the acting chef. They're not the opener and the closer, although the first 6 months felt like it. My mom quickly saw that our approach was a little bit different. And from everything we learned in helping with the restaurants, then we just need to apply the management side of things, be involved in everything, still be mom and pop, and have that effect, but not relying everything on just our two hands and feet. Yeah.
Right. Just you solely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I wonder if you might be comfortable sharing a little bit about what that multicultural experience was for you. So you were born in Rosarito. You did your, what we call your first couple of grades there. You're obviously learning and speaking Spanish.
Yep.
At home and with friends.
Mm-hmm.
you shared with me that your friends call you Alejandro, right?
My middle name.
Yeah, by your middle name.
Many people might not know my middle name. Yeah.
And then, you go home and I imagine you're speaking, the language of your parents.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cantonese. Mm-hmm.
And then you come to the U.S. and you're trying to learn English.
Yeah.
And so maybe just talk a little bit, like, how did that work for you? And
yeah, I think it worked great. The skills that I've acquired just from multicultural, having that experience with the Mexican culture and the Chinese culture that my mom, taught us, and then obviously the U.S. culture, the Southern California vibes and all of that. It all plays great to just my own character and the person that I am. It's a funny example, but I like to tell people that, depending on what stages of my life I spent in what country or studying in what language, sometimes my processing thinks about it in that language. So I do most of my math in Spanish, because that's like the grade school, like multiplication tables and in addition and things like that. So till this day, if I'm doing like quick math, I'm like, I actually say it in my head in Spanish. So I think it's came out of it with like great skill. Communication skills, bonding, being able to relate, because of just the sheer culture experiences that I've had. And that also kind of translates into our concepts too, right? So here at Common Theory, our menu is eclectic, right? It doesn't just come from me, but definitely there's like hints of it, suggestions of it. We get feedback from all over. It could be from me, it could be from my business partner's Korean background, our chef's ethnic and cultural background. So everybody has a little bit of input. And we just come together and try to make sure that it works well with our concept, yeah.
It works amazing.
Yeah.
I can testify, I've eaten here.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the name Common Theory. Mm-hmm. And so, you're at UC San Diego, you're learning engineering and lots of mathematics and physics and all the stuff that goes with that. And so just a little bit curious, was there any connection between the STEM background and the name of your restaurant or not?
Very little.
Okay.
The coming up with a name, it's always pretty hard for any concept, right? So I recall back and forth amongst my business partner and also some friends trying to come up with our name for the restaurant, Common Theory. The connection there to like UCSD engineering and so forth, it's the theory part, right? Is that makes it a little bit like ambiguous and makes people guess like, what is that? That little part did come because we're a little geeky back then. We're a little study nerds, and so that theory came from the fact that we were in the field of engineering and things like that. The whole name itself, it stems from Common Theory is our common interest. Our common interest as friends in good craft beer, good food, and an overall good space to enjoy it all, enjoy the company, enjoy the conversation and things like that. We knew right from the get-go, we didn't want to be a sports bar per se, but we wanted to develop and create an ambiance where you can have a conversation, but there's TVs if you want to take a peek at the game that's happening, but building bonds and relations was really the atmosphere that we wanted to create. And so that's how Common Theory came about, the culmination of our interest for good food, good drinks, and just overall good vibes.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then let's talk a little bit more about UC San Diego and your time there. So I think you also had a sibling or a couple of siblings that went to UC San Diego?
Yeah, my older brother. Yeah, my older brother went to UCSD as well. My two younger ones, one of them at State, SDSU, and the other one went to like UC Riverside. But yeah, my older brother also graduated from Bonita. He did the program at Southwestern to then transfer over to UCSD. So yeah, knowing that he was gonna end up there or go there as well, that was definitely part of the decision for me too was like, hey, I want to go to UCSD as well. And we would all be here in San Diego and things like that.
So what was graduation like? Maybe take us back. You're graduating, what was that experience like?
It was obviously overwhelming sense of achievement. Me and my older brother being the first ones in our direct family to kind of complete a 4-year higher education. And you can see it in my mom and my dad, obviously on graduation day, having them also wear the cap and gown and take some pictures and stuff like that. It was a great experience in knowing that I accomplished probably my biggest hurdle or chapter in my life at the time. And then that I was going to be set up with a great degree to land me to the next step. So I was excited. I wrapped up something important here in San Diego in the college that I was like looking forward to. And then to apply it to the real world,
The real world. Yeah. And so I imagine when you were this idea of becoming a restaurateur, I mean, some of the roots of that idea must have come from your own experience, your parents' experience. I imagine you worked in the restaurant, and probably picked up a lot of skills there that all of a sudden you're like, wow, I didn't know that when mom and dad asked me to do this, it was, now I understand this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, growing up in a parent's restaurant, right? It's a small business, mom and pop shop. We helped with all odds and ends, whether it was, waking up first thing and on the weekends and you sweep the parking lot and get it all ready for the guests to come in, or a dishwasher calls out. I mean, you're filling the spot, son. Or a server calls out, then you're taking orders, you're serving guests. So we helped with everything, if the help was needed, we did it. And so when the idea started sparking up and discussions were had with my business partner, hospitality was definitely in our wheelhouse, right? So we felt comfortable in it. Even before that too, most of my time throughout high school, I worked at my cousin's restaurant, which is out here in National City. So I was a waiter there a couple nights throughout the week, and definitely the weekends I'd be working it. So shout out to, Golden Chopsticks in National City. So I worked in the service industry, so I honed in on my hospitality, my servicing skills, my being able to discuss and have a conversation with random guests coming in, and making sure that they felt at home, hospitable. So when we were developing our concept, I just felt comfortable, right? Because of that background and experience and just having done it all, I don't call myself a chef. I can't hold it down on the line or anything. But it's, the bigger picture, the experiences that we want to create, the food that we want our guests to enjoy and such things like that. Like, I felt like I had honed it in. And obviously you learn so much more running it on your own, because you'll definitely see things that you didn't learn in the past. But yeah.
So you have Common Theory, but what are the other locations that you've developed?
Yeah. So our Common Theory on Convoy was opened close to 12 years ago. And then we're obviously sitting in Common Theory Chula Vista. This is one of the newer brands. But we also have 52 Remedies, which is inside of the Convoy Common Theory, and it's a speakeasy cocktail bar. And then down the street on Convoy as well, we opened up Woomiok, which is a Korean authentic cuisine type of restaurant. Lot of traditional broths and entrees to share and so forth. While we opened up Common Theory 2 down here in Chula Vista, we actually took over the next door building as well, and we opened up Sura Korean Barbecue.
And I think I just want to kind of highlight this, because I think the beautiful thing about your story and your partner's story is you found a way to take your culture, the food of your culture, and turn that into an entrepreneurship, as well as your own lived experience as an immigrant to Mexico and then to the U.S., and where you're blending all of those cultures and everything that you've learned over the years. So for our viewers out there who are our current scholars, our prospective scholars who are contemplating entrepreneurship, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I would say, because I contemplated this as well, right? Jumping into entrepreneurship is always hard, and you leave a safety net of some kind. But my biggest thing that I preach, and I preach that to all of my staff as well, is don't ever burn bridges, right? You build relationships and throughout different stages of your life. You do the best you can to build those bonds and keep in touch with them and keep building that, even if you move on to a different chapter in your life. My example is with the engineering company with Geocon. I was with them for a good 7 to 8 years, on and off at times. I would leave, try to pursue a different or higher position at a different firm, but then had to come back. And then I would try different, so you leave and you come back, but if without building that bond and that good relationship, and then keeping that bridge alive, it's hard to make that available for yourself. So entrepreneurship is hard in its own. So if it ever doesn't work out, you need something to fall back on, right? And so that's what the engineering and the degree and the corporate life relationships that I had built allowed me that little bit of kind of safety net to be able to kind of rely back on if and when a business didn't work out. So I think, jumping into entrepreneurship I recommend it. It did work out amazingly for me. I don't regret it a tiny bit. But was it a hard thing to get started and jump into? Yeah. So yeah, don't burn bridges, build them, keep making them stronger. There's a structural part of me, right?
There you go.
Build the strong bridges and maintain them. That way, if you ever need to cross it again, you make that leap. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to share your story with us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.